Yeah, we going up, we going crazy, going bonkers. Produced by Ziggy, Zay Ticky, believe that.
It ain't peaches, it'll deceive you, boy, believe me. What you know about a jungle made with nothing but semen. No creepy crawlers, just heathens that prey on your weakness. Smell the slightest hint of fear, and the stainless you'll eat it. Gang bangers that greet your test on their face like Weezy. Pouring milk by the ounce, walking around looking sleepy. I'm from a town no integrity, a broken city, disrupted. I know niggas who once were real, who now turning into sucks. When it comes to murder, it's nothing. Rallos get pulled over scuffles. Bumpy road around this motherfucker, your life means nothing. It ain't peaches. Niggas walking around with no feelings, with a chip on their shoulder, saying the world don't feel us. Trying to earn them some millions so they can split with they niggas. I know cats that died broke because they lost all ambition. When it comes out to get
Welcome back to another edition of More to Live For. We're right back on this good segment, Men of Honor. Fortunate enough to make it all the way to volume 16. I have a special guest with me this afternoon. Definitely an honorable man himself. Definitely, somebody that I looked up to, and, somebody that I haven't seen in years. So it's going to be fun reconnecting. How you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm doing pretty well, thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Could you introduce yourself to my viewers, those that may not know you?
Yes, sir. I'm Mark Carson. I grew up in Bethel, North Carolina, the big metropolis. So I went to Bethel School, then North Pitt. Now I've matriculated to where I'm a teacher at North Pitt for the last 21 years. I've coached basketball, coached tennis, but mainly people know me for teaching math out here.
Awesome, awesome. So, you kind of laid out your educational background for us. So before we, dig into your college days, because I definitely want to touch on that. How was it, once you started working at North Pitt, being that you went there and, that the school is, in our hometown. So you pretty much, know people there. So.
Right. So when I came back, I graduated from Carolina in 4 years, and I came back and I taught. So I was only really 22, 23 when I came back to teach, which is a good thing for retirement because I can retire early. But anyway, when I came back, it was a lot of the same teachers that taught me were here. So that part was awkward because you had to get used to them respecting me, not only as a top student, but now as a comrade or a teacher that's equal. And when I did, I had Miss Roebuck who taught me geometry, and she was my mentor, and she was excellent. One thing about her is she's no nonsense. She tells you what to do. She lays out like a framework of what to do, when to do things by. And that part was real good. But even like in faculty meetings, it's like I was going in there as this student, or this young kid, that was 22, with teachers that even my Aunt Jackie was here, Mabel Perry, like you name it, people were here that was here when I was a student. So that part was awkward, because the one thing that was telling for me is I remember when I was a freshman coming from Bethel, we only had like 36 kids, and we came to North Pitt, and it was like 300 kids from Welcome. So we felt small, we felt whatever, but I just remember the halls being so big, like when I was a little kid. Well, now when I went back to teach, these halls are so small. It just gives you a different lens, a different perspective. But it's like a lot of times, even when I'm teaching today, I try to go back to, because I teach a lot of freshmen, so I like to go back to that when I was first walking in here. What was I thinking? What was I nervous about? What was my mind saying? Like, just get by doing this or whatever. So that part was, like I said, like the different lenses as from a student when I was here, from 93 to 96, and then coming back in 2001 and being a teacher since then. That was definitely, different lens to see things through.
Wow, you kind of touched on something that I completely forgot about. You just mentioned it. I do remember vividly, that the school trip. When we I forgot exactly what it was called. It definitely wasn't open house, but I remember going to see North Pitt, and I remember you know, our whole 8th grade is on one bus. And then
Right.
when we get out here, we see Welcome pulling up with 3 or 4 buses full of 8th graders. So yeah, it definitely you know, reminded me of how small of a school we are and how small of a, you know, town that we are. But nonetheless, you know, a lot of great people came from Bethel, and I definitely think that you're one of them. So
Appreciate it.
another thing that I want to touch on, you know, that I think that's just so important, you know, the fact that, you know, you went to Carolina, you graduated from Carolina, and now, you know, you're a teacher, but you know, you're also involved in sports. So you kind of get to, you know, still, you know, have that Carolina Duke rivalry, even with, you know, students of yours, or, sometimes, some of the players on your team be Duke fan. I know one in particular
Right.
that you coach that's a Duke fan. So, I just kind of want to shine a light on that, and and I thought it was real, real cool the way that you, always held on to your school pride.
Gotcha. Well, the first couple of days when they come in here, we do like icebreakers. We get kids to stand in different part of the room just to get them up moving, but also to like see our differences, to appreciate differences, but also to respect each other. So one thing I do is I make kids stand in the corner from Bethel, from Stokes, from Paxolis, from Welcome, and then if you didn't go to any of those schools, you stayed in another group by yourself. And I always joke to the kids that the ones from Bethel, they're the ones that are going to pass. Because usually Bethel had like really good teachers, not to take anything away from the other schools.
Right.
But Bethel's always had pretty good teachers, especially math, like Lois Barrett that we had, Kelly Peel. There's certain ones that these kids come in, even if the kids were struggling, they knew more stuff. I had a little bit more confidence when I put it that way. So I did that at the beginning of the year, and just even when I joke, like if a kid made, like right now I got a kid, Jalen Cherry, who's from Bethel, and he does pretty well. And so I'll say, Bethel, right? And he's smiling, yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. So you take you appreciate where you came from,
Yeah.
not to distinguish the others as worse. It's just, we're going to take pride in where we came from, just as any of them would, their hometown. But as far as the Carolina Duke thing, that's one thing kids always said they remember about me. It's like if Carolina lost, they said that, or when I coached basketball, if North Pitt lost or Carolina lost, that they knew the next day they would get a lot of homework and a hard quiz.
Right.
When in actuality, I had made this stuff out beforehand. But it's just the kids thinking like, oh Lord, Carson's mad because Carolina lost. But even at the beginning of the year, like I asked, like, what team do you pull for? Like a lot of times we'll do NFL or NBA, but then I make it come down to like Carolina, Duke State, ECU. And then I always like the ones that say Carolina, like, you're going to pass. I don't say the Duke ones are going to fail, but it's the Carolina ones are definitely going to pass. And, we just get that we build like a family with the 26, 28 kids that are in here for each period. We can know like that's the Duke kid, that's the State kid, that's the whatever. And again, we just talk the differences, but then again, build on those things to appreciate things.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And I think, that's everything that you laid out, man, is very important. To be proud of where you're from, man. That's one thing. That's one thing that I can honestly say that North Pitt, really taught me. Because going to school in Bethel, I really wasn't around, other people, from Welcome. I knew them, but not, on an everyday basis. So coming to high school was, kind of a, culture shock. Oh, y'all from Bethel? Oh, stuff like that. So,
Right.
but I'm glad that that you can, do the same thing, but in a more positive way than than kind of my experience was, coming into North Pitt. So I definitely think that's cool. And I definitely can remember, all those days, whether Carolina won or lost, but I definitely remember that being, not necessarily the center of conversation in the class, but you've made a way for to mention it. So I definitely always thought that was cool. And years later, every time that I see a good Carolina game, I think of you.
Good, good.
So that's just
That's the good ones.
yeah. So that just goes to show the impression that you left on me. And I definitely think from a student standpoint, and the times now are a little different. I do think the 2000s, the early 2000s, for to not, have cell phones as advanced as they were now.
Right.
I really do think it was a lot going on in those early 2000s, especially north of the river. So
Right.
I say that to say I definitely can remember you, always treating everybody fair, always treating everybody with respect. And I just kind of want to take a moment, to shine a light on that because, not every teacher does it. I'm fortunate that every teacher that I have to be a part of, this project that I'm trying to do has been a teacher like that. So, I just want to, take a time to, acknowledge that, the stand-up guy that you are, and teacher and how that, rubbed off on some of your students, a lot of your students actually.
Yeah. I appreciate that. One thing I realized is like I always, people say, what did you learn from teaching? And I think the main thing is I learned more from them, especially my first couple of years, like the Jeremy Taylors and some of them, because growing up, just to be honest, I had a pretty good life. Like had two parents at home, they cared about education. It was just expected to do well. And then when I became a teacher, I realized there was some kids that, and I knew they didn't have like the one parent at the home or a grandma, but I realized they didn't have the same situation that I did. What I try to do is with these kids, I always say, it doesn't really matter where you came from, it's where you're going. So with that part is like, I kind of tap into each individual kid and just, show them the light of, making opportunities. Like me, I did good in school, so I had a chance to go to Carolina or pick wherever I wanted to go. For them, I want them to do as best they can so they can have those same choices or opportunities at the end to choose whether they want to go to a HBCU or East Carolina or Carolina or whatever. Because some of them don't have the two parents at home that cared about education or didn't have the time, not to be, it might be they cared, they just didn't have the time. And I think that's what these kids appreciate is that like, I'm going to be real with them. Is I don't hold back. I kind of like, this is what you're going to do. This is what I expect of you. I don't need you to make like 100 on the state test. I just need you to do the best that you can. And so we have those real conversations to say like, what is the best that I can do? Because, we take the EOCs next week. So we're always geared towards something, but I give them goals that are attainable for them. And like, again, like you go on what you said, fair and honest, it's real. It's like, it's got to be genuine. It's got to be where I just don't talk about fairness and stuff as I'm actually implementing it or whatever. Like, like a lot of times honors kids are real smart, whatever race or sex they are. So they think when they finish the test, they can go out in the hall to go to the bathroom. And I explained to them, well, if you're in a standard class, a lot of those teachers wouldn't let those kids because they think they're misbehaving. So I'm not letting you just because you're smarter or whatever. We're going to do the same type thing that all kids out here do. And so like one thing they know, they don't leave my classroom. Once you come in, you don't leave. And they get used to it and they understand. So it's like that fairness and equity part is like, I try to make it like make them see things through a different lens than what they were. Because again, like when I was in high school, it was much different in my eyes than when I came to school to be a teacher.
Right. Yeah. I definitely, I can relate. I wasn't out there, during your years, obviously, but the cool thing about where we come from, one of my older cousins was, so, that's the cool thing about where we come from. And I was just having this conversation not too long ago. I can't remember with who, but, just from the simple fact that me and you not the same age, and you obviously were my teacher, but, I have older cousins that, went to high school with you. And, you have, younger family members or friends that went to high school with me. So that's the cool thing about, where we come from and how everybody, is connected. And, I want to focus more on that, in these years.
And I think one thing, like you're saying, the two schools that I went to were Bethel, which was KA. And it's like, all people in North Pitt used to joke, like, why do y'all like each other so much? Why do y'all like what white, black, rich or poor or whatever, single parent, no parent, like back then and stuff, it was, we went to the football games, we went to the baseball games. Even if we weren't playing, we supported them. And it's funny because all the kids like from Bethel, like, why do y'all like each other so much? Or want to pull for each other. And so that was, I learned, from being from Bethel coming here, but then even like Carolina people are real tight too. Like that's one thing, if you say you went to Carolina, then somebody else, like we built a connection right there. So it's like, I think growing up in Bethel, it helped because you develop that sense of pride. No matter how small you are, you're going to take pride in what you are, what you have. And then that translated again at Carolina, like it was two schools that take very much pride in themselves, or Bethel, where you kind of have that smile, that little, like you went to Bethel, you went to Carolina, where you had that instant connection, even if I don't really know that person, is we can but similar stories from Bethel or Carolina that kind of connect.
Oh, definitely, man. I can relate. I definitely think that, you know, like I said, once I got into high school, man, it's kind of like I took more of a pride of being from Bethel.
Right.
So, and it definitely has a lot to do with this journey that I'm on now. Seeing a lot of my guests are from Bethel, and I'm just enjoying every moment of it. Reconnected. Before we wrap things up, I kind of want to touch on your coaching years. When I was out there, you know, 2000 through 2004, I don't think that you had started coaching yet. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I was just doing JV basketball.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But
So,
the first 2 years, I think I didn't do anything, and then I started doing JV basketball for 5 years. Then I did varsity basketball for 13 years, something like that.
because I definitely can remember. I went to one of your games. I think if I'm not mistaken, it was a game on the road. That's another thing. You know, being from Bethel, you know, we went to North Pitt games and we also went to Tarboro High games. So I mean, we're right in the middle. But this game that I'm referring to, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was at Tarboro High, and it was I want to say probably 2005 or six. But you know, just seeing you, you know, as my former teacher, and I'm looking at you on the sideline, you look like you've been doing that for years. You know,
Right.
so I just kind of want to take the time, you know, to give you recognition for the good job that you did for coaching. Because the first time I saw it with my two eyes, you look like you've been doing it for years. So I just want to
I
kind of touch
appreciate
in on
that.
some of your highlights.
Yeah, I would mainly attribute that to the kids because teaching and coaching are very similar. Like when I'm in my classroom, that's my classroom. I'm building them for math one or algebra one, and I have to prepare them for a state test. So we have all that practice to do. But the same things like the gym. When we have those practices, we've got to make them prepared for anything that Tarboro or whoever, Tinston Farmville, whoever does. And that's one thing I think we did very well is we prepared them for whatever, like offense, defense, special teams in terms of taking the ball out of bounds. But even like, for instance, rivalry, like teams that get up for us. Like you got to match that because a lot of teams back in those days would get excited to play North Pitt, whether it was Roanoke back in the day, South Creek now, Tarboro, Southwest Edgecombe. And a lot of our kids don't look at those as quote rivals unless you're from Bethel, because they're right there near those two places. Because our kids see Farmville, Rose, you know, now South Central. So I think when you like, obviously I had to bring poise to the situation. I had to have confidence. And again, those kids were great kids. Always, for my 18 years I coached. I hate to say they would run through a brick wall, but I feel like they would do almost anything I needed them to do. Even if they couldn't do it well, they would do it the best they could. And so all those wins and whatever, it was attributed to the kids who listened. Obviously, my assistant coaches who helped out, because a lot of times I'm mean cop and I need somebody to be the nice cop. Because a lot of times I don't put up with nonsense, even though I have empathy and understanding. But somebody else, my assistant coach, whether it was Brent Luton, Paul Scruggs, Perry Signs, whoever, would step in and kind of like put the arm around the kid, like, "Hey, he's just saying you've got," because I want to teach them life goals more than basketball skills. And so again, I think the kids are to contribute, to contribute for the success that we have, out here. Because I had some great kids. A lot of them came through Bethel, like the Hines kids, like no matter what, Pee Wee, Lehigh, Daquan, like the Hines name in Bethel was still.
Yeah.
And so like, and then I had good kids at Welcome too and stuff. But it was like, you had that with Bethel, because sometimes we had to drive them home after practice, and then I could just show them like that's where I live, and I just again touch base of I'm like you more than you think I am. But again, I just all those good days with basketball, like it was really good days, and it was different memories from a school setting. So it was, I appreciate those kids for letting me get on them, hound them, prepare them for basketball and for the game of life.
Definitely. And I kind of wanted to touch on something that I don't know if it goes on at other high schools, but definitely at North Pitt. And I definitely just kind of want to touch on this, the fact that you are you were in the role of teacher and coach, and it was other coaches also taught classes at North Pitt. So I just thought that was real special, the fact that you can affect a young person's life academically and in the sport that they're trying to play, and you just got a real hands-on feel, and you're definitely in a position to make a positive change. So I definitely want to take this time to salute you and any other teacher from North Pitt that was doing both, because I think that's not easy, but is very special.
And I think you bring up a good point, because I think a lot of the best teachers are the ones who are coaches.
Yes.
Like Perry Steins, Paul Scruggs, Brent Wooten, Alan Wooten. Even we coached back in the day, we were assigned by the EOC, because if we can touch kids in sports, we can probably touch kids in the classroom. But like you said, to affect change is the one thing, the avenue that I appreciated was, because I coached tennis as well, but I could coach tennis and basketball. Once I got that kid to buy in to believing in me for basketball, then I could take it to the academic end and say, look, we might not can go to basketball for college or whatever, but we need to do something where academically we're prepared to go on. And like one true testament is like Antonio Barnhill, like he played for me, and then now he's gone on to be a nurse. Like it took him a long journey, but he's got there just to show like, you love basketball. He loved basketball. All these kids love basketball. But now I need you to love academics, not as much as basketball, but kind of up there where we can do things to have an opportunity to go we want to, you know, to make a living and to do something, give back to our families or whatever that have helped us in the past. So that was one thing, like you said, a coach in the classroom, we can kind of merge those two and get them to see academics is just as important, if not more important, than athletics. But again, athletics was their true love, because that's how I met a lot of those kids, you know, in the gym or on the tennis court.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think that was very well put. Sorry for the cameo. My son is trying his best to get in this video. Sorry about that.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him. If I had somebody that's up there on my side, I would try to get in there as well and, you know, put his picture up there rather than mine.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely think all that you said was important. It's just one thing I just kind of want to touch on, and I kind of mentioned this in a previous video, but I do want to just touch on the fact that, you know, most oftentimes we do see the scenario where the child, you know, the student is, you know, more focused on the sport and not really focused on the academics. But there are those rare moments when, you know, you have a student that's, you know, academically gifted, but, you know, may have self-esteem issues or, you know, things like that. And the fact that, you know, you are a teacher and a coach, I think that, you know, you and others like you are in a position that you can make a positive impact on that child's life, you know, just by the simple fact that you are a coach and, you know, you are involved in sports, and hey, you can get this child that's, you know, you're very smart, you're academically gifted, but I understand you have self-esteem issues. Why don't you come and try out for the team? Even if you don't make it, it'll still be a great experience. So I think that's very cool too. And I kind of want to touch
an
on that.
Important piece, like you're saying, because they can help out, even if it's bookkeeper or manager or something. If they don't get the goal of making the team, they can still help out and be a part, you know, of the team, because you need different dynamics in the team. You don't need all the best players, which would be nice, but you need like team players and different things as well.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. And now that you say that, I'm sitting back thinking now that I can remember, you know, the ball boys, the equipment managers from different sports, and I can honestly say that I can see, you know, for the most part, you know, those individuals. I can't remember them by names, but I definitely know that they were, you know, not necessarily shy, but, you know, they were thriving in the position that they were in. So, and it was good to see that.
Right. And even the team would rally around those kids as well. You know, because it would be like something different than basketball. Like if they see me fussing at a kid that's the manager about, you didn't do this, they're going to sit there and giggle and laugh like Carson's going off on this kid. You know, it's supposed to treat everybody equal, but it's also when that kid does something good, then I'm pointing out, you know, to the team as well. And they got just as excited, because even we eat, like we go on the road and play somebody, we go eat at Bojangles. Those managers and those statistician people, they sit with the team. Like they don't sit over here at the table by themselves. A lot of times we have a table like five, and there's one of them at this table, two of them at this table with three other players. Like if they feel a part of the team, not just, oh, they're the managers or the something. We make sure we put them all together, because again, just like in the classroom, we're all here together. We got to make the best of it.
Exactly. And I definitely want to once again, I want to thank you for doing this for me. I think this interview was great, man. I really do. Things that we're talking about, I definitely think, you know, we reconnected. You know, like I said, it's been years since I seen you, so just to know that you're doing okay and you're still doing, you know, what you love to do, and that's definitely a win for me. So I can definitely say mission accomplished with this interview. Definitely. So I definitely want to
appreciate everything you do. Like I've seen a lot of your other interviews, like Jacinta Jones. I taught her excellent, great, I say girl, but when I taught her she was a girl, like I think you're bringing a lot of perspective that even kids can see, like right now in our classroom, different things they can be when they get older. And so that's what I think is really good about what you've done. And so I want to just like salute you for what you've done, because you've shone a bright light on Bethel, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. That's always been the ultimate goal. Thank you so much, sir. Definitely. I'm going to wrap things up right here. This has been another edition of More to Live for Men of Honor. Special guest, hometown legend, teacher, Coach Carson. It's been a pleasure, sir. And thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.